Hey everybody, thanks for coming to join us again today for our Facebook Live session. My name's Kortney. I'm our Senior Herpetology Keeper here at the Virginia Living Museum. And we are going to be feeding our swamp turtles here again. I'm sure you've probably, if you've been following along with our virtual education, you might have seen the turtles feed before. But we're also going to be talking about one of our conservation programs that we do here at the Living Museum, our Turtle Census. So I'll get into that in just a moment. But we've got some nice goodies here for our turtles. We've got some veggies, some collard greens, some zucchini, celery, blueberries, and then also some bits of reptile gel and turtle pellets. So they've got all kind of good stuff in there. And we're gonna be tossing this stuff in for these guys to feed on, and you can watch them while I talk to you all about our Turtle Census project that we do here, and a little bit about these guys in general. So let's see if they're already ready to go. Here you go, turtles. And the fish will eat a little bit of this as well, so you might notice the catfish coming up and taking a big bite of this stuff. So the nice thing about feeding the animals in this way is that everybody gets a little bit, but we don't really get to monitor how much of it they get. So we do feed the turtles on different days, and some days we actually feed each one individually. That way we can monitor how much each one is eating. And they're pretty much always hungry and ready for food, so they don't mind either. But so for today, they're just getting a good mixture of things. All of these turtles are omnivores, which means that they eat a variety of meat, so things like insects and worms, and fish. Sometimes if they find a piece of like dead fish floating around, they might eat it. And also, in our case, we're feeding them fruits and veggies, but they would munch on things like algae and other plant matter that would be in their natural environment.
You guys feel free to chime in with any questions you have about the turtles or the Turtle Census project. I know she's going to talk about that a little bit later. And if you have questions that we can't answer during the video, we'll go into the comment section later after the video and answer them then. So don't be afraid to ask your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So while you're watching these guys munch on their food, I'll tell you a little bit about our turtle census. So just like the current nationwide census that's going on, that's to count people and see how many people live in the United States. We do a turtle census in the lake behind the Virginia Living Museum, and that is to determine how many turtles live out there. And we've been doing the turtle census for about 10 years now. So we have 10 years worth of population data on the turtles that live out there. And these are wild turtles. These are not turtles that we stock back there. They're not taken care of by us in any way. They're just the natural population that exists out in that lake. And this program started actually as a middle school class program in the summer. And they would get a group of middle schoolers to come in, learn about turtles, and then go catch some. And it's kind of evolved since then into a yearly program that we do just free to visitors, can come out and watch us collect some of the turtles and measure them.
Okay, we have a question from Callista. She says, what type of turtle are they?
Okay, so the turtles that we have in the exhibit in front of you, we have 3 different species. There are eastern rivers, there are yellow belly sliders, and red belly cooters. We do not have right now any red-eared sliders on exhibit, but the ones that we find out in the lake do consist mostly, about 50% actually, of red-eared sliders. And I'll talk about those in just a minute, a little bit more about red-eared sliders. But in the lake, we find the same types of species. So we get red-eared sliders, yellow belly sliders, some cooters, and then a few smaller species. So things like musk and mud turtles, and also painted turtles. So there's lots and lots of painted turtles out there.
We have a question from Evelyn, age 6. She says, can you talk about turtle patterning?
Patterning, great. Yeah, so if you've ever tried to figure out what type of turtle you're seeing when you're looking at them out basking on logs, it's really hard to figure out which one's which because they all kind of look the same from the top for the most part. At least all of these types of species do. But if you ever get one up close and you can see them, they do have some distinguishing markings. Yellow belly sliders have a distinct yellow line running back from the back of their eyes on their head. Red-eared sliders have that very distinctive red patch kind of running behind their eyes and over their ear area. And if I can find him, one of the really cool, funny things about those yellow belly sliders that I just mentioned is that they have stripes on what's called their pants. And we call it their pants because it's basically the skin on their backside that's right around their legs. And I love it that they're just called striped pants. Let me see if I can find our yellow belly and see if I can show you his pants. So if you look at the rear end of this turtle, this is a yellow belly slider, and you see those vertical stripes on his hindquarters, but those are called his pants. So this is our yellow belly slider. He's an older guy, so he's lost a little bit of his bright coloration. And all of the turtles that we have here on exhibit in the swamp area here are actually quite old. So nobody's younger than 25 years old. So the youngest guy we have out here is 25. And the oldest one that we have in here is 60 years old. So she is quite old. Not sure where she went just now. But there's another one that's approaching 50 years old, and then the rest of them are between 25 and 30.
How old do they get?
They can live a pretty long time. So any of these types of turtles that you see basking, swimming around in lakes, red-eared sliders, the kind that you would find in a pet store, they can live, be nice. They can live 60 to 80 years easily, and they are very long-lived, even in the wild. So in human care, they can live even longer because they've got access to medical care and good food. So one of the things that I do like to bring to people's attention is that turtles do live that long. And so when you see things like red-eared slider babies available in pet stores, you really want to think that through before you buy that cute little baby, because it is going to be a pet of yours for a very long time, and maybe even for your grandkids. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're ever thinking about buying a turtle as a pet. It's much better to adopt one that needs a home if you can do that.
Eddie wants to know if the big fish and the turtles get along.
Kind of about as well as two siblings that share a bedroom would. Tolerate each other, and sometimes the fish like to steal the turtles' food, sometimes right out of their mouth. But that's about as much as they care about each other. It's mostly when it comes time to eat that they even care that the other one's around. Most of the time, they're kind of indifferent towards each other.
Somebody messaged us with a question. They would like to know what the long fingernails are for.
Oh, that's a great observation. I'm so glad you pointed that out. So the ones with the long fingernails are actually the male river cooters. And there's some other species of male turtles that do have that same trait. And the males use those long fingernails to woo the females during mating season. They literally go up to the female's nose and wiggle the fingernails right in her face. And that's supposed to be an attractant to get the female's attention and see if she'll mate with him. So that's a way for the boys to impress the ladies.
Do they ever need their nails trimmed?
No, most of these guys do very well. They will kind of dig in the gravel to look for food, and especially if they were in the wild, they would. So we don't ever really need to trim their nails for them. Any other questions for us? No? Okay, well let me tell you all a little bit more about Turtle Census. So our Turtle Census, like I said, is a program that we do here every summer, usually the last 2 weeks of June and the first week of July. So it's a 3-weekend event. And we go out on Friday afternoons and set some traps in our lake. And then on Saturday mornings, we go and we collect the traps and bring back any of the turtles that are in the traps. And then we'll bring all the turtles up, sort them, look at them, and then we spend the whole morning measuring the turtles and marking them so that we can identify individual turtles. And that way the year after, or subsequent years, we can actually see who's survived and who hasn't, and how long they actually live. So I was asked to give a shout out to Michael and Jelena. So hi guys, I'm glad you're watching and hope you like our turtles here. They're being pretty cute. Do we have a question?
I'm not sure. Let me see.
Okay. So the Turtle Census is a really fun way to monitor that population, and if you want to pay attention to our schedule this summer, we don't have set dates for that event yet, but it will be happening at the end of June, beginning of July, and you can come out and watch us measure the turtles, see the turtles up close, and get a look at those different species of turtles that we catch. Any other questions for us just yet?
Do you have a favorite turtle in here?
Favorite turtle in here? Well, it's funny because people don't realize that all reptiles, really, including turtles, all have their different personalities. So these guys really make me laugh sometimes when it's time for feeding or when I'm cleaning in here, because they're all so kind of individually quirky. So some of these guys can be a little pushy and rude at times. And then we have one in particular, the big round girl that's kind of in the back. I don't know if you can see her. She's very polite for a turtle, and she's absolutely one of my favorites because she's just very sweet. She comes up and takes her food very gently, and you can actually see her. She's kind of behind the other one right now. And I'm actually going to show her to you anyway. Oh, nope. No, I'm not. She swam away. Come here, girl. There she is. So this is actually the oldest turtle that we have in here. She's the one that's about 60 years old. So she's very sweet, and she's lived a long life and could tell us some stories, I'm sure. But she's a very sweet girl. And I will just mention, you may have seen me stick my hand in the water. Please don't do that if you come to visit us. The fish can get a little snappy sometimes, and we do have fish with teeth in here, so it's definitely not a good idea. Also, the turtles can think little fingers look like worms in food, so don't do that.
We have a couple questions regarding the census. One is what kind of turtles we catch during the census, and the other question is how we mark them.
Oh, great question. So I mentioned briefly earlier that we get almost 50% of the turtles that we catch are red-eared sliders, and red-ears are actually an invasive species to the U.S. They are pretty much everywhere at this point because they've been released from the pet trade and various other ways that they've gotten out into the populations. So they are the majority by far. We also get a large number of painted turtles. So they are actually a smaller species that we don't have in this exhibit right now. We get a lot of them. Occasionally, or most years we get a couple of snapping turtles, 1 or 2, that we release right away because they can be pretty feisty. And then we get a number of these different cooters and sliders and mud and musk turtles, which are also pretty small turtles. And the way that we mark all of the turtles that we capture is we put little notches on the back of their shell. So let me grab one of these guys and kind of show you. Come here. Oh, I'm sorry. I know, I just need you for a demonstration for a second. So this top portion of their shell is called, this is called the carapace, and the bottom portion is called the plastron. And if you look closely, you see that each of these little segments, these are called scutes, they have a certain number of those segments along the outer rim of their shell, and it's very reliable, so we can actually mark the shell by putting little notches in certain scoots on each turtle that corresponds with a certain number. So it might be 100, 400, 700, and 1, 2, 3, or there's a whole system of marking, and we can actually look at which one is marked and determine which individual turtle it is. So she wants to be put down, so I'm going to let her go. Sorry, girl.
Graham would like to know how long a turtle can hold its breath underwater.
Oh, that's a really good question. So turtles are really good at holding their breath. They can do it for several minutes up to several hours easily, and that's during the active season. If they're hibernating, they can hold their breath underwater for days without having to come up and take a breath. And some species of turtles actually do something that we like to call butt breathing. They can actually do oxygen exchange through some blood vessels through their tail. It's not like taking a breath, but it's basically taking in oxygen directly from the water through that skin. So they can stay underwater even longer if they're capable of doing that. Any other questions for us?
Doesn't look like it, but remember guys, if you have any more questions after this video, feel free to put them in the comment section and we will get to them later.
All right, so I actually do have one more little special treat for you guys. So this guy is not in this exhibit. This is Lester. He is our painted turtle that we have here at the museum, and he is one of our ambassador turtles. He is about 17 years old, so he is full grown. This is as big as they get, at least for the males. The females can get a little bigger. And this is one of the very common species that we do get in our turtle census. So we see lots out and about in the lake. So a lot of times when you see these small turtles out basking on the logs with some of the bigger ones, they are actually adult turtles. It's not necessarily a baby. It's just a small one, like Lester here. So painted turtles are really cool because they have this bright red patterning on some of their shell and on their skin. And the way you can tell a painted turtle very easily from other species is that they always have this very smooth blank shell mostly, and little bits of red along the edge. And then if Lester will stick his head out there, you see these 2 yellow dots right behind his eyes. And that is only in painted turtles. They're the only species that has the dots like that. There's some other markings that certain species have, stripes or teardrops or things like that, but these are the only guys that have the 2 dots like Lester here. So he is quite cute. He's one of the favorites of a lot of our keepers here. He has a big tank in the back, and he's very social. He likes to come up and swim around and look at you when you're working, and follow people as they walk by. He's not really sure what we're doing out here. This isn't his normal habitat. Does anybody have any more questions for us before we wrap things up?
Doesn't look like it.
No? Okay, well, thank you all so much for joining us here at the Living Museum on Facebook Live. You stay tuned with us. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for all of our natural education. Be sure to stay up to date with our calendar on our website as well, thevlm.org. And definitely check out our calendar in June and July to see when that turtle census is going to be happening. And maybe you can come out and see us again when we're doing some live turtle trapping. So thank you all again for joining us, and come back to see us again tomorrow morning at 11 for some more of our Earth Day Festival live feeds. Thanks, guys.